Okay, so for this tier list, we are doing all 39 WoW specs in terms of how I personally enjoy them, how much I enjoy them myself. Now, I know among some of my WoW friends, this might raise a lot of eyebrows. This might raise a lot of eyebrows and get me a little bit of, give me a little bit of flame from some of my WoW pals. But we're going to do it anyway because, well, I'm me. So we'll start with the elephant in the room. Beast Mastery Hunter, dead in F tier. I don't think... Now, I could be wrong so far. But I don't think I hate or have hated any spec in this game as much as I have hated Beast Mastery Hunter. I cannot stand... It's so boring. It is so boring. So Beast Mastery dies in the F tier. And another potentially controversial choice, Mistweaver and S. Mistweaver, especially more recently with the Teachings of the Monastery stuff, basically fist weaving in keys and whatnot, I really, really enjoy the playstyle of Mistweaver. Easily my favorite healer. If I'm being asked to reroll healer, play whatever healer I want for whatever content we're doing, I will almost always pick Mistweaver. Mistweaver is a lot of fun. So now that we have a definitive top and a definitive bottom, I'm going to say Guardian Druid is E. I find Guardian Druid fairly unengaging to play. It's just a lot of take damn, hit Iron Fur, spam Thrash, maybe a couple of other buttons sprinkled in there. I mean, obviously a couple of other buttons sprinkled in there. But, like, it just doesn't feel engaging to play. Another controversial choice, Augmentation in A tier. I really like Augmentation's gimmick. It is a support spec. It is not a DPS spec. I know it does some damage, but I mean, like, what support spec isn't going to do a little bit of damage here and there? But I like being a utility bot in my keys and buffing my friends to help them do more damage. I vastly prefer that to the Devastation gameplay, which I will put in B. I do enjoy Devastation, just after playing it for so long, it starts to feel a little on the samey side. It starts to feel stale. I love Evoker as a whole. I just like Augmentation the best. Since we're on Evoker, let's go ahead and throw Preservation also in B. I really do like Preservation as a healing spec as well. I like how it plays, I like how it feels to play. That's really all I've got to say on that. Let's finish Monk, Druid, and Hunter, since we've got partial done. Marksman, I'm going to put in C. I like marksmanship enough. Like, if I were playing a ranged hunter, I would definitely play marksmanship, but it rare, like, big carpet opinions. Marksman feels... Aim shot feels really good. Rapid fire is a satisfying button to press. Otherwise, marksmanship is marksmanship. That's all I really gotta say. Survival in A tier. I love Year of the Spear. I love Survival Hunter. I also love having a melee hunter option. I mean, I refused to play hunter entirely until I tried survival in Legion, and I was like, oh, you're gonna make me enjoy hunter this expansion? Come on, Blizzard. I love survival hunter. It's a lot of fun. More mobs the better too. That's another thing I find really fun about it. All right, that finishes hunter. Monk. Melee hunter should be tank. BM should be melee spec. I don't know if I would. You know, survival has like, its name is definitely like, it makes me think tank, at least, like if I were uneducated completely. I don't know, if they ever made Beast Mastery a melee spec, I would probably try it just to see how it felt. If we're ever going to get another tank specialization, though, it should 100% be Shaman. That's my opinion. Because, like, they have a whole element that they just don't really utilize enough of as a Shaman. So back to Monk. Brewmaster I'll put in B. I like Brewmaster as a tank. I'm not sure if I never played Brewmaster when Guard in Legion was like how it played, but I played a fair bit of it in Legion. I played a good bit of it in Shadowlands, and it was basically my second tune in Dragonflight Season 2. I like how it plays. I'm just not sure if I like the Iron Skin Brew or the Celestial Brew version better. I kind of like the Celestial Brew version because it like gives you the ability to get a big shield and just not give a shit about anything for a few seconds. But Iron Skin Brew made the spec a lot more engaging. I prefer Local Brew Fat. I liked Iron Skin Brew because it made the spec a lot more engaging beyond like just watching your stagger bar and pressing every other button in your toolkit that wasn't a brew until your stagger bar had enough for you to purify off for it to be worth purifying. I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up. I also really like Weapons of Order as a cooldown. I'm not a big fan of Niu Zhao, but I like Weapons of Order as a cooldown, which is, you know, a Shadowlands thing, which is when the Celestial Brew version came into play. Windwalker. Windwalker. Windwalker, I don't like it. All the tier sets lately have been kind of lame. It felt lame to play in Shadowlands. It wasn't as lame to play in Legion. I'm really, really looking forward to the War Within changes, because some of the class changes coming to Windwalker in the War Within look really, really good. And I'm definitely going to be trying it when we get those changes to see how good and bad it feels. What haven't I finished? Druid. Balance. I am not a fan of Balanced Druid. I really don't like Balanced Druid. I like it more than Beast Mastery Hunter, but not the biggest fan of it. I'm not entirely sure what it is I just don't like about Balance. It doesn't ever really feel engaging or interesting to play, in my opinion. Like, it's just, I feel like I'm spending way too much time applying Sunfire and Moonfire than doing literally anything else the spec can do. I've never played a well-geared Balanced Druid to know what the difference feels like, but oh man, I don't remember what I heard about Venthir Boomkin in SOD. It was a lot of what? I'm trying to remember. I think it was like you press whatever the Venthir ability was. Yeah, I remember Venthir Boomkin, I think, was just like you press your Covenant ability and then like You're just kind of fucking there as a body until it comes back off cooldown. From a druid standpoint, I do like Convoke the Spirits as a feral and a balanced druid. Speaking of feral, I do like feral druid. Obviously, I've said it before, it feels like budget assassination rogue, but I mean, like, you get to turn into a cat, and if you got some cool cat skins, well, I mean, like, you can at least look like a cool cat while doing it. It gives you access to some of the stuff all 3 other druid specs can do. Like, what is it? Regrowth? There's a big one. I can't remember what it's called. Nourishment? But it's like just a big healer cooldown. You can enter bear form to have some defense. Resto Druid, I kind of like Resto Druid. It just... The few times I've played it in recent memory, it just feels like a huge mana hog. I have not played it in Season 3 of Shadowlands or Season 3 of Dragonflight or Season 2 either. I've only ever done, like, Season 2 BFA through Season 1 of Dragonflight Resto Druid, so I don't know much about the complaints that a friend of mine has had about Resto Druid. But it was kind of cool the times I played it before. I do have one thing to say about Resto Druid, though, and that is RIP Mobile Trank. Tranquility while moving was really, really good. And that's... yeah. I will do Priest next. Shadow... Shadow's current iteration has felt pretty cool, where you're getting a bunch of Shadow Word deaths that are giving you a buff to an ability. I just don't like I'm going to move it to B tier, just because I don't like that the buff to that ability is Shadow Crash or Shadow Word Pain. If it buffed any other 2 abilities for a single target in AoE, it would probably feel a lot better in its current iteration. Anything that does a lot with Auspicious Spirits, I personally think feels pretty good. I like Devouring Plague. I really liked the Shadow Orb version of Shadow Priest from Kata through WoD, but because of how long ago it was, I don't really have much in the way of remembering what that playstyle was like, but I remember I did like it. Shadow's a good fun spec. I think my biggest beef with Priest as a whole is that it has, like, fuck all in terms of defensives. I mean, Shadow has Dispersion, but it's one of those you can't really do anything while it's active defensives, and that kind of feels bad, just like Ice Block always did/does as mage. Holy Priest, I am not a big fan of Holy Priest. I'll put it in D, though. Just because I did like Shadow Priest and Kata. I skipped Mop. I liked Shadow Priest and Warlords. I haven't really had a major understanding of how the whole fucking Naru effigy thing works since Legion. I missed the whole stances thing for Shadow Priest, where you had one holy word ability, and it was either Chastise, Serenity, or Sanctify, and your chakra buffed either your single target damage, AoE, or your single target healing, your AoE healing, or your damage by a little bit. I can understand why stance dancing is a jank mechanic. But I liked having the ability to do it, so it wasn't like, okay, I've got like 3 AoE heals, I've got like 5 single target heals, I've got 3 damaging abilities, and I've got this fucking Naru that does something. I still don't know what the Naru does. Disc Priest, I really like Disc Priest. Disc Priest is probably my second favorite healer. I like the heal through damage component of it. And that's another reason that I like Mistweaver in Mythic Plus at the very least. I mean, I enjoy a good Mistweaver in Raid, but, like, Discipline is, like, 90% of the time doing the heal through damage gimmick, regardless of content. I did not like Warlords of Draenor Disc Priest. It felt really boring to play. I have a friend who's always like, bring back WAD Disc. Like, no, don't bring back WAD Disc. There's nothing fun or engaging about just casting one big bubble on the tank and then just power word shielding literally everybody else. And to top it off, they felt like ass to heal with, because you can't heal damage that the Disc Priest bubbles are eating. Shut up, Fat. I like Disc the way it is now, the damage through healing. Rip Light's Wrath. Light's Wrath should have been baseline from the jump. Big damage cooldown for big healing through Atonement. That's what I think. Next we'll do Warlock. Demonology is good fun. I'll put it an A. Demonology is good fun. I like the whole Army of Demons gimmick. I didn't care much for WAD demo, which would obviously be like Mop and Kata demo. I didn't care much for that version of demo, but I really, really liked Legion's demo. I kind of do miss Thalkiel's consumption. But the new version, since BFA, is also pretty fucking rad. The whole Army of Demons and then buffing them with the Tyrant doing pretty good always felt pretty good to play. Not too good when you mess it up, though. Destruction, I like well enough. It's done some really cool things over the years. But it's in a single target setting and in an AoE setting, respectively. It's just kind of Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire, the spec. Like, you'll cast a handful of other spells here and there, but like as long as you have like really high soul shard regeneration, you're just casting a lot of the same two spells, depending on the situation. I really like Flame Rifts and how Season 2 brought that back. Flame Rifts is a really cool ability. I really wish we could get it baseline, or, Cataclysm baseline. But Destro otherwise is pretty good fun. Affliction I will put in C tier. I have liked what Affliction has done since Legion. Did I say Season 2 for Flame Rifts? I meant 3. Thank you, Fat. Everything else I said about Destro still stands, though. I just got the season that Flame Rifts was relevant wrong. Affliction has done some interesting and cool things throughout the years since Legion. I have liked it just about every time. The only problem is that as more targets get added, you have to start picking and choosing what dots you do want to upkeep on stuff and what dots you want to just not worry about. A la Siphon Life. Please delete Siphon Life. I think Seed of Corruption spam is kinda... The more targets there are that are dying consistently in a given situation, Seed of Corruption spam gets funny. But otherwise, that playstyle in AoE is kind of boring. But, like, Malefic Rapture doesn't feel great as a spell. Deathbolt felt a lot better in Legion as a spell for Aflock than Malefic Rapture does. Excuse me. Deathbolt felt a lot better than Malefic Rapture, but I mean, Dragonflight Affliction hasn't been the worst thing. I just wish they would just, for the love of God, off Siphon Life and give us something better to do than channel Drain Soul while dots are ticking. Like, bring back Deathbolt. Deathbolt was a pretty cool ability. Just, put, a really big cooldown on it and let us spam Rapture in the interim or something. But Rapture just doesn't feel like a good button to press, no matter how many. Even if there's just one target, you've got like 10 dots on it. It just doesn't feel good. For Warlock as a whole, mostly Demo and Destro, mostly Demo or Destro and F, I do miss the option to have the Doomguard and the Infernal as permapets. I mean, Infernal is cool as a cooldown for Destro, and the Dark Glare cooldown for Affliction, namely an AoE, is kind of rad, but I do miss those two as options, because they were at least... it wasn't you're using the same one or two pets across all three specializations. Next is Death Knight. Blood's fun. A or B? I'm going to put it in B. Blood's a lot of fun in that you don't need a healer like 65% of the time, and the other 35% of the time it's definitely nice to have, but you're kind of your own boss whether you live or die. Not to mention in terms of like magic damage and not being snared too much, you're one of the top tank specs to deal with something like that. I remember in Season 1 on my Death Knight, I tanked Ner'zhul in Shadow Moon Burial Grounds on a 20 from like 35% to 0, soloing it because he just didn't have the means to out-damage my personal healing as a Blood Death Knight. I think one of Death Knight's biggest weaknesses is that we don't really have much in the way of an oh shit button, like just hope your Death Strike heals for enough, and that's kind of it. I mean, we've got extra parry, but against magic damage that doesn't do a whole lot if your AMS is on cooldown. Death's Advance doesn't feel like a substantial enough speed boost. If you've got like a Havoc Demon Hunter, any kind of druid, and like monks and or hunters in your group, or even like evokers, they're going to spend a lot of time just standing around waiting for you to reach the next pack that they have already gotten to, because you don't have much in the way of speed as a Blood Death Knight, and Death's Advance doesn't give you enough. Frost, I'm going to put in C. I like two-handed Frost. I've never been a fan of Breath of Sindragosa. I like the Obliteration build. Again, I've never been a fan of Breath of Sindragosa. I like how in BFA they had some Azerite traits that kind of opened up how you could play the spec. Gave them a variety of things that they could do in like a Mythic Plus or even a raid setting. I wish they would just remove Breath of Sindragosa, but I don't understand. I understand why they can't, because it is a popular and favored ability. I just wish they would remove it so that whenever I want to play Frost Death Knight, it isn't you have to play Breath of Sindragosa dual wield, or you're just going to be effectively artificially worse at Frost Death Knight. Unholy, I have really, really liked throughout the years. It's, I think it was called Necrotic Plague Variation in Hellfire Citadel and Warlords of Draenor. Felt really, really cool instead of just having like 2 or 3 diseases. The iteration we have now with the Festering Wounds and Apocalypse and stuff like that is also really, really cool. I love the Magus of the Dead thematically. I'm excited to see... They also have like extreme burst damage in that you can pull a ton of mobs onto each other. You can spread Festering Wounds with, I think it's called Virulent Contagion. And you just do huge AoE damage standing in your Death and Decay and spamming Scourge Strike? Yeah. And that feels real cool. I'm really excited to see what they do with Unholy going into going into the War Within. I would like to see something interesting with pets other than glyphs. Because just having the ghoul, unless you glyph it, feels kind of boring in terms of, you're a commander of the undead. Like, why can't I... I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. Just, expand pet options more, I guess. Rogue, Outlaw, E-tier. I liked the pirate theme for a flavor reason in Legion. I dislike how we have, over the periods of time, lost some of that pirate flavor. And last but certainly not least, I have a personal hate boner for Outlaw Rogue for consuming the meta to the point where, as a Fury Warrior, I was declined from a fucking 7 in BFA because I wasn't playing Rogue, because triple Rogue was the meta. And it had to be Outlaw, and, no, that's really dumb. Get that garbage out of here. Subtlety, I enjoy less, or I enjoy more, but it still just kind of feels to play. It doesn't feel spectacular to play. I mean, thematically it's cool. You get Shadow Dance a lot. Basically, you're doing a lot of stuff in stealth without being in stealth. And I think you even get greater access to Vanish in a second charge and a reduced cooldown, I think, which is also thematically pretty cool. Assassination, I enjoy a good bit. Its current iteration, at least. And its Season 2 iteration. Assassinations felt pretty cool. Poisons, bleeds. My only beef with Rogue is Spiteful Week. Because, Jesus Christ, let me fucking stealth, for the love of God. I get why, we're on a timer, we can't just sit around killing the Spitefuls and waiting for me to stealth, but oh my God, let me enter stealth, please. Paladin. Holy is... Oh... I don't understand the love for Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin's healing has never felt impactful or all that good. I hate to say it. I just don't get it. Rep Paladin is a whole lot of hitting the same 3 fucking buttons no matter what the circumstance is, and it's kinda, as a non-caster class, it feels kind of slow and boring, and I'm not exactly the biggest fan of it. Its newest iteration feels even worse because the meta talent is an auto attack holy power generator instead of Crusader Strike, and that feels even worse. I mained Holy Paladin for a good portion of Warlords of Draenor, but I have not enjoyed it too much since then. Unlike Prop Paladin, which is probably... Prop Paladin might be my second or third favorite tank on the whole list. I think Prop Paladin is real flashy, blocks damage, has healing in spades. I think the biggest gripe I have with Prop Paladin is that Holy Power dictates our healing for the most part and our damage mitigation, as well as the whole standing and consecrate gimmick that Blizzard has been trying to force on players just does not feel fun. Just having to plant in a small little circle. Now, yeah, you can consecrate a few steps ahead, but you still have to stand in it. So if you have to move out of your consecrate for something, you want to drop it again immediately. I think we had a glyph or something like that in Warlords of Draenor where consecrate just followed under you permanently. Bring that back. If you're going to push the stand and consecrate gimmick on us, bring back Consecrate following us under our feet. I feel like that would do a lot more good for Prot Paladin than just trying to force us to like the mechanic. Resto Shaman, I like less than Holy Paladin. At least Holy Paladin looks and feels kind of cool doing what they do, but outside of Spirit Link Totem and Healing Tide Totem, I feel like I am doing fuck all as a Resto Shaman for the most part. It feels like I'm getting next to nothing done. Not to mention, in times where the game is where the game in Resto Shaman is tuned to spam chain heal, and that's just the most effective way to do things outside of Healing Tide and Spirit Link, that feels even worse. Because, like, then what are the rest of your spells for in those circumstances? Next is Enhancement Shaman, which I like a good bit. I'm going to put it in C tier, because I'm going to put Elemental in B tier. Enhancement I like, but some of the builds as of recently feel kind of weird. I don't really know how to explain what I mean by that, but it feels like you can only really do like one, maybe 1.5 things as an Enhancement Shaman. And if you're in a situation where you have to do any of those other things that an Enhancement Shaman can do, building into them, you're just kind of a limp noodle, and that's just not very fun, as opposed to Elemental, which stands at a distance and gets to do both things in equal degree, but gets to do one of them real well. I also really like the tier set that Elemental has right now, doing a ton of Lava Burst damage to things, and Lava Bursts flying everywhere after Primordial Wave, which causes you to Earthquake and Earthshock more in a key, or Elemental Blast in a raid, which gives you more Primordial Blasts. And on more adds, it's so much more enjoyable too. You spread Flame Shock to enough things, and it just feels so satisfying to Elemental Blast. Or to Lava Burst when you Prim Wave. Prot Warrior I'm going to put in E tier. I'm not the biggest fan of Prot Warrior. It feels better than Guardian Druid. I'm going to put it in D tier for that reason then. It feels better than Guardian Druid to play, but it's still pretty boring. It's a whole lot of just standing around, pressing buttons, waiting for Rage to generate your, armor, block, and damage mitigation, and it doesn't feel very engaging. Fury and Arms have always been personal favorites. And I'm going to put them both in A tier because I don't know which of the two I like more. Because they've been favorites since Fury. I've loved since WoD. Fury and Arms I've liked both since Legion. They both feel really good to play for various reasons. I'm really, really excited to see what the War Within does for Fury and Arms, because Arms is getting access to Ravager, which is pretty fucking solid. Fury is getting access to Blade Storm, and that also has the potential to be rad as hell. Not to mention, Fury dual-wielding two-hand weapons, come on, that is so cool. Vengeance Demon Hunter is going to go in A tier. Vengeance is probably my favorite tank spec in the game. I think my biggest gripe with Vengeance is, outside of meta and or demon spikes, and when dealing with magic damage, without a healer, you have the potential to be in trouble. I really liked Season 2 Vengeance, which was, just infinite and spreading Infernal Brand on things for reduced damage, and Season 3 is Sigilbot Vengeance, and that feels really cool too. I've always loved Vengeance. Havoc I'm going to put in C tier. I like Havoc. I enjoy Havoc. My beef with Havoc is that there have been some patches where Havoc hasn't been very fun to play. Like, you see someone else playing Havoc, and you're like, oh man, they gotta be having so much fun. I gotta fuck with my Havoc Demon Hunter now. And then you play with Havoc, and you're like, this feels terrible. But for the most part, since its inception, Havoc has been good fun. The momentum design in Dragonflight has been better than the momentum design in Legion and Shadowlands. But I still don't know how I feel about momentum from a design standpoint. I get it, but I don't know how I feel about it. And then there's just I-Beam, Blade Dance, turning into Metamorphosis that just feels like some of the most satisfying shit ever as any spec. But I gotta rank it in C just because some specs just haven't been very fun. Frost Mage, B tier. 2 words. Glacial Spike. All I'm gonna say about Frost Mage. Arcane Mage, E tier. Arcane has felt very, very complicated. I respect the hell out of the people who can play it at a higher level. I am not one of them. I do not get much enjoyment out of that much complexity for something as simple as a heroic raid boss or a just regular mythic plus 20. I get why it's fun. I certainly do. It's just, it ain't for me. And then Fire Mage. Right there at the top with Mistweaver. Fire, since its changes in Legion, has just consistently been one of my favorite specs. And I'm so, so, so glad that we have Pyroclasm back the way it is with how Mage is built now, as of the Season 2 changes. I love the shit out of Fire Mage. You ask me to play Mage, I'm going to try to play Fire. Doesn't matter if it's the worst tuned. Love me some Fire Mage. And that is my tier list for... That is my tier list for every spec and how I enjoy it in World of Warcraft for every time that I have played it. With that, we're going to end the video right here. Leave comments, concerns, thoughts, flame in the comments down below, and I will see you guys around.